listen the fuck up. My friends, because we are about to talk about political violence, I am going to explain in depth my views on political violence, the reasons why I believe political violence is necessary, the extent to which political violence should be advocated for, the different types of political violence that we can see enacted in a society, which types we should engage in and against which groups of people, and other issues which pertain to the broader problem. Now, first of all, I just want to say, to any of you who are watching and who are not 100% on board with my particular brand of leftism, to those of you who do not advocate for violence, to those of you who abhor death, to those of you who prefer a peaceful solution, I stand with you. I don't like death. I don't revel in it. I'm not a LARPer. I don't like the idea of running down the street shooting people I disagree with. None of that sounds good to me. Okay? That doesn't make me happy. Sometimes I lay in bed at night when I'm trying to sleep, and I just think about all the abject misery in the world. I remember reading a passage recently on a famine which took place in India, in which a reporter was walking down the street, and he observed a young, malnourished orphan child run up to pick a piece of undigested corn from the diarrheatic expulsions of a beggar and eat it, of course. When I think about the fact that I live on a planet where stuff like that is possible, I get deeply uncomfortable, which is the reason why I advocate for political violence. Whether we like it or not, the world in which we live today is suffused with violence. We have many active forms of violence, from the coup we are engaging in Venezuela right fucking now, to the many sectarian wars that are taking place in Latin America, in Southeast Asia, in Africa, that have been continuing for what seems like into perpetuity, certainly in the Middle East. We have the many minority groups across the world that have been oppressed either by their government or by their peers. We have the institutional violence of the state. We have more food in this world than we know what to do with. But it's not getting to the people it needs to get to. People starve under this system. Colonialism, imperialism, war, forced starvation, economic deprivation, exploitation. These are all evils that we contend with day to day in this world. This isn't some abstract theoretical concept. These are preventable problems that affect billions of people. There are billions of people on this earth who do not know when they are going to get their next meal. Billions with a B. Under an ethical system, all of these people could be fed. Every last one of them. We have the food, we have the technology, we have the resources. This could be done within several years. But it won't be. Because it's not profitable. This is the passive violence of global capitalism. And it outstrips, by far, any act of violence or any collective acts of violence ever committed by any groups ever in the history of humanity. Genghis Khan's pillaging and rape of all of Central Asia and parts of Europe, nothing compared to this. The Holocaust, nothing. Stalin and Mao, nothing. Pol Pot, nothing. Nothing even comes close to the passive evil which we perpetuate day by day by continuing to live under this system, not even to speak of the exploitation of the violence committed against people domestically. Capitalism is evil. It's not some broad adoption of humanity's virtues, which allows us to monetize greed and ensure distribution. It is a system which determines where resources go. And as it stands, the resources are not going where they need to go. Capitalism is evil, hot take over here. Listen, I'm just laying the foundation. Because in order for you to understand why political violence is a necessity for leftists, you have to understand the alternative. The main problem is you can't personify capitalism. It's the absolute worst for training people's mind. Hold. We're nowhere near done with this topic, my friends. Hold the fuck up. Now, we live in a cruel world. The world is not getting better. Day by day. More people live under poverty, more people starve than they ever have before in human civilization. Now, you can make per capita arguments here, and please feel free to. Capitalism has done good. Capitalism has ensured the creation and distribution and mass construction of a great many valuable technologies. But that is not what we are discussing here. Because if we are considering the raw quantity of suffering evident out there in the real world, we are at a premium right now. The question, then, to any humanitarian, such as myself, is what can be done? Now, some of you might believe that we can vote in a solution to this. Some of you might believe that the corporations who are willing to leverage United States military power to enforce coups in the third world, to bring about death squads in Latin America, to literally prompt invasions of foreign nations in Central and South America, to invest in the warlords who keep down the slaves we use for cocoa production and diamond mining in Africa. Some of you may believe we can vote these people out of power. You're wrong, of course. We can't. It'll never happen. Not in 100,000 years. Not until the clock stopped turning. Never in the history of humanity has the ruling class willingly capitulated power. Not once. It has never happened. It will never happen. The material interests by which they live, the extent to which they are willing to defend their property, has already extended well beyond human life. Do you think corporations give a fuck about human life? The same corporations that bury academic research that proves cigarettes and soda and sugars and what have you are contributing directly to the diabetes and obesity outbreak in this country. The same corporations that prop up dictators in Latin and Central America. The same corporations that use every single penny they can afford, directing broad marketing and advertisement towards people which blatantly lie about the extent to which they will make your life better. No, they don't care about voting. They don't care about democracy. There is nothing democratic about corporations. They own the lobbyists. The lobbyists own the politicians. Politicians take money from corporations and then sign the bills in front of them. Politicians are told who to vote for.
Bernie Sanders 2020. We must crush capitalism at all cost. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs.
They don't give a fuck. Politicians will literally sign documents that are put in front of them written by corporate lawyers. The communion between capital and government is at this point near total. Voting ain't gonna work. And I haven't even begun to speak about fascism yet. I haven't even begun to speak about white nationalism. I haven't even begun to speak about xenophobia or all the broader extra systemic threats that we are facing right now. Hold on.
Politicians get the bullet.
Now I ask you, as you are overcome by despair, what can we do? What is there to be done? Boy, Sonny, do I have a solution for you. It turns out the power of the proletariat extends beyond the ballot box. Are you ready for some fucking MS Paint memes, my friends? All right. Now, let's talk about political violence, because I only support political violence as a matter of utilitarian practicality. If I can kill one Nazi to down the line keep Nazism from killing 100,000 people in this country, yeah, I'll take that bet. We ain't talking about innocent people here. At no point during this following stream am I going to advocate for the death, deportation, deplatforming, or violence against anyone who is innocent. I'm going to be talking exclusively about people who in a just and civilized society would already have the shit kicked out of them and would be unable to advocate for their positions, hence for the teeth that ain't in their mouth. This is the Voshvidya spectrum of political violence. Yes, Lizard. Now, over here, at the beginning, we have the liberal ideal society. Okay? I'm drawing a little halo over here because it's so angelic and pure. Okay? Look at that. I said libs. See? You get it. You can't see? Oh, shit. I forgot to change the cam. Haha. Zoop. Good call. There you go. This feels bannable, TBH? Well, they can take it up with me. In the meantime, quit fucking whining about it. Now, over here, we've got the libs, okay? We are going to discuss first the liberal ideal, the Enlightenment era Platonic ideal of political advocacy. In this ideal, in this little bell end over here, here is what takes place. There is no systemic or institutional violence or discrimination. Everyone has an equal voice. Everyone is educated to the extent such that they can properly express their wishes and desires. Everyone presents their values through legally channeled means, through voting, through scheduled protest, through the legal channels of the media and such forth. And finally, the laws which exist concerning all of this are completely democratic and not at all biased, nor do they reinforce any institutional biases. This is the liberal ideal, where all problems can be solved through adherence to the system. It is, of course, a fantasy. We then have, in no particular order, 4 kinds of political violence. Now follow through with me here. These are not in order. These are not ordered by extent, by capacity, by severity. We have first social. That's a little Facebook sign. See? Wait, isn't Facebook a lowercase f? Hold on. Yeah, there we go. That looks better. We have social ostracization. Secondly, we have political ostracization. What should I hear? I'll do a little flag. No, wait. Got to make it wavy. See that? Then we have physical. Good enough. Nope. There, good enough. Then we have physical ostracization. And then finally, we have, and I know this one's your favorite, everyone buckle down. Nope, that ain't how you do it. You like my art skills? I know you do. And then we have pirates. No, we have removal from society. Now, let's discuss what all of these mean, okay? And by the way, it should be noted that I am just speaking on the fly. I am not referring to the works of any particular philosopher, though I have consumed many works from philosophers, and I would like to believe that what I am saying is consistent, broadly speaking, with the thoughts of many such philosophers. Listen, now, over here on the left, we have a fantasy. It is the idyllic opposite to which all other standards are to be compared. There is no such thing as the liberal ideal. There is no such thing as this paradise where political advocacy and political activism can be engaged in from within the system efficaciously with no problems whatsoever concerning institutional discrimination. Let's talk about social alienation. Now, this is a good fun one, okay? Because everyone tries to do this to everyone. Literally every group tries to do this to literally every other group, okay? This is talking shit about people. This is calling them dumb stupid heads. This is trying to get them deplatformed off social media. This is reporting their posts, falsely or legitimately, whatever the case may be. This is flagging their videos. This is making response videos to their videos where you call them stupid dickheads. This is doxing them. Well, no, actually, we'll get to doxing. This is, if nothing else, DDoSing them. This is harassing them. This is engaging in social alienation. Everyone does this to everyone, okay? Everyone does this shit to trans people, okay? Trans people get this more than literally fucking everyone else, okay? Social alienation is not institutionally reinforced inherently. It often is, though. This is simply individual citizens choosing to get up on the cases of other individual citizens with whom they disagree. Okay? For the most part, there's no law against this. Nor do I think there should be. But this is a form of political violence. Political violence does not begin and end with the knuckle, my friends. Political violence is any time you engage in an extra rhetorical tactic to disenfranchise people with whom you disagree. That means extra rhetorical. That means anything which exists outside this fucking libcuck ideal right here. This shitlib ideal. Anytime you do something people like this wouldn't approve of, you're engaging in a manner of political violence. Okay? So that's social disenfranchisement. Then you have political disenfranchisement. Okay? See how I've got the American flag here? That's because America does this a lot. Do I need to list examples of political disenfranchisement? You've got obvious examples like slavery and some folks being able to vote while others can't. You've got less obvious examples like, say, for example, voter ID laws. You've got examples whereby the United States government will prop up coups in other states. You've got examples by which laws will be trans bathroom bills are a good example. Basically, any time discrimination against a group of people, anytime a political narrative is being enforced through these rules, rather than the rules being an arena in which people debate, the rules themselves become a part of the debate. That is a manner of political disenfranchisement. Do you consider boycotts, occupation of public spaces as violence? Unquestionably, yes. That would definitely fall in most cases under social ostracization, or under some cases it could follow pretty squarely under this. We've got the fucking physical violence. Okay, if you're at a protest and you're body blocking people from attending something, if you're outside an abortion clinic and you're trying to intimidate people from entering, if you are actually engaging in violence, if you go to a neo-Nazi rally and start popping chuds, this is physical violence. Okay, notice how I am not using any kind of value-driven statements here. I don't think these things are inherently right or wrong. I don't believe that these things have any sort of moral weight fundamentally. It depends on why they're being used and who they're being used against. Do I believe in social ostracization where people go on fucking Twitter and they're like, chromosomes determine your sex, Of course not. Do I agree with social ostracization where you go on Twitter and tell TERFs that they're dumb baby heads? Of course I do. That's good praxis. In regards to political disenfranchisement, do I believe, for example, that the government should be able to mandate that businesses do not have to fucking bake the gay cakes? Of course not. Do I believe that the government should have certain institutional policies concerning, say, the eligibility of political candidates who engage in outright bigotry? Yeah, I could stand behind that. It's a little bit dicier territory. I tend to prefer my advocacy to take place through social means driven by the people rather than by the government, but I could hear some arguments about that. And over here, do I agree with fucking marauding gangs of white people in Sweden beating up fucking brown people, immigrants? Of course I don't. Do I agree with the opposite? Marauding gangs of immigrants beating up white people? Obviously, fuck white people. No, I'm just kidding. I don't agree with that. But if the white people were Nazis, then yeah, no, totally. Just fucking, whoo, get them. And then we've got these. We got this one right here, okay? Pirates. No, of course not. Removal from society. This is the ultimate level of disenfranchisement. You can't come back from this. There is no greater way to disenfranchise a population. The United States of America did this to the Native Americans. Would you say that Native Americans have been removed from society? Because I certainly fucking would. We did this to Japanese Americans back in World War II when we sent them to internment camps along the West Coast. We did this, for a time, to black folk when we made them slaves, removing them, in effect, from society. How much advocacy can you do from a plantation, really? Not that much, in effect. Thank you, Tuli. Tuli, my friend, my comrade. Thank you very much for the Twitch Prime subscription, my friend. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And welcome to the Vosh Pit. Now, removal from society. This is what white ethnostaters talk about when they talk about, ensuring a white America or America for white folks. They're talking about the deportation or genocide or systemic imprisonment followed with either deportation or genocide of brown people. Removal from society is the most severe possible level of ostracization because you are denying any possibility of them engaging in self-advocacy in the future. Now, why the fuck am I talking about all of this? Well, I want to illustrate, by and large, that all of these things, these four types of political violence, can be used for good or for bad. Now, obviously, what you define as good or bad is going to depend on your personal set of values. So say this, rather, that the outcomes of engaging in this types of political violence can be positive for society or negative for society if you consider inclusivity, diversity, safety, and freedom to be good things, and you consider bigotry, xenophobia, violence, and terror to be bad things. If you want to promote safety, freedom, egalitarianism, and liberal values, you should be in support of some kinds of violence listed here. And if you want to prevent things like terror, deportation, death, and genocide, you should... Everslaw, thank you very much for the Twitch Prime subscription, my friend. I really appreciate it. Thank you, and welcome to the Vosh Pit. The reason I am making this point is because I am sick and tired of shitlibs acting as though these things, these forms of violence, can only be used for bad. There are a number of problems with this. For one, there are ways that these things can be used for demonstrable good. For example, us fighting the Nazis in World War II was a pretty clear example of this removal from society. I would say we benefited the world pretty substantially back during then. Did we not? I would say we removed Nazism from society. We did the same thing back during the Civil War. Though the Reconstruction efforts Lincoln was attempting to engage in down at the South failed with his assassination. As for this right here, you say that you disagree with physical violence being waylaid on the street. Okay, sure, fine. You know the civil rights protests got violent from time to time, right? I don't mean there were black folk running up to police and decking them in the face. That's a one-way ticket to getting your brains blown out all over the street. But in terms of sit-downs, blockades, human embargoes, stopping traffic, defending themselves against attacks by the police and by individuals, you bet your ass they did that shit. And you know what we got from it? An end to segregation. An end to apartheid. It wouldn't have happened without that shit. The reason that we fucking lefties very often endorse for these types of political violence is not because we are violent, it is because we recognize these are the means by which society can be made better. I can continue to list examples. Do I really need to list examples about how the government taking a stance on, say, gay marriage, making it legal, made society better? If you disagree with that fundamentally, then you're probably not the type of person I'm talking to. A person who is well-intentioned but otherwise opposed to violence. Do I really need to talk about how online disenfranchising, alienating, and making fun of bigots generally does good for society? Of course I don't. And if I do have to make those arguments, then I'm not talking to the right people right now, because I'm trying to talk to people who agree with my values but disagree by the ways in which I get to them. The reason why it is necessary to engage in political violence at the very least these three levels is because the society we live within is utterly inequipped to deal with certain external pressures. If you want a better summary of this than I could ever give, I strongly encourage you to watch Innuendo Studio's most recent video, and it'll teach you a little bit about conservatism. But in regards to what I can discuss here now in an unprepared format, I will simply say this. We are dealing right now with a system which, through negligence and malice, contributes to the death, the starvation, the deprivation, the alienation, and the exploitation of billions with a B human beings every year. Billions. We are a factory of misery. This isn't an accident. This isn't just how the world is. This is the product of choices people we voted into power made. We did this, and we have the power to undo it. We are not going to change this through voting. We are not going to change this through cutesy late-night TV takedowns of the Trump administration. We are not going to change this through fancy slogans on signs that we run about outside the White House. These are not how things change. You change things by putting institutional pressure on the institutions which need to be pressured. Do you think the government or businesses care one iota what you're protesting about outside? Because from what I can see, all that does for them is generate controversy, which can be used to generate oh goodness, excuse me, that brownie I ate, which can be used to generate profit. Remember that Kylie Jenner fucking Coca-Cola shit? Remember how corporations have a tendency to capitalize on the disenfranchisement of the working class by making advertisements where they pretend to be on your side? Your protests, your namby-pamby liberal in the system...
Burn the institutions that oppress and exploit the working class.
Thank you, friend. The belief that these protests, that these means of activism are capable of uprooting systems which perpetuate suffering for billions of human beings. It's nonsense. Come on. It's fucking ridiculous. Are any of you really stupid enough to believe that will ever work? Do you really fucking believe that the systems in power can be fucking up-wrenched just because we vote Bernie Sanders into office? Do you honestly fucking believe there is any chance in the world that these multi-billion-dollar corporations and the people who they pay for, the mercenaries they deploy to other nations, the people they have on payroll, the political advisors they have in their pocket, do you genuinely believe any of this can be dealt with through voting? Through protests? Give me a fucking break. Don't be stupid. Don't waste my time. If you believe that, you're part of the problem. If you believe that the institutional problems, the institutional discrimination, the global suffering which we perpetuate can be addressed at the ballot box, you are part of the problem. Now, don't get me wrong. Still protest. Still vote. I'm not saying these things aren't valuable. They can still affect change. Domestic policy is susceptible to changes in the administration, for example.
I personally think if Bernie was elected, he would do the right thing for the American people. You think he is just another corrupt politician?
When did I say he was a corrupt politician? I said that the system is not one which one voted in candidate can change. I like Bernie Sanders as a person. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Presidencies may change, but America has been fucking with the rest of the world for damn near a century now, and the process hasn't changed. Don't make this about individual politicians. And don't use this as an excuse not to vote. Don't use this as an excuse not to go out there and protest. These things I might have to disable text-to-speech for this.
How do you get other people to believe, though? Everyone looks at me like I'm crazy when I say those cute permit-following protests don't work as well as people think they do.
We are getting to that. How the fuck? Here, yeah. Just for a little bit, friendos. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to mute those. I love you. Don't give me money if you want to ask me questions or have the chat hear anything. Listen. Please, go out there and vote. Go out there and protest. It's useful if for no other reason because it radicalizes people. There are plenty of folks who go out there and get radicalized at protests. That's a good thing. Radicalized people can be useful to us in the future, okay? I'm not saying this is an excuse to be lazy. I'm not saying this as an excuse to be complacent. I am saying this to make it very clear, and I can cite plenty of pre-existing research, plenty of scholarly articles, and plenty of historical precedent to reassert the notion that America and the institutions it backs, the institutions it is, the suffering it perpetuates, these things are not going to be brought down at the ballot box. You gotta work a little bit harder than that. And sometimes you gotta work outside the law. So, we've had ourselves a fun little chit-chat. What do I want to see? What kind of violence do I want to see enacted? Well, call me a pragmatist, but my views on violence are determined largely by what I believe will be most efficacious in the long term. Social ostracization? Fuck yeah, go for it. Absolutely, deplatform, harass them online, DDoS people, flag their videos, spam their comment sections, make them feel like shit, make them not have fun, make them not want to participate anymore. You know how many leftists have given up, have gone online, expressed their opinions and given up because of the sheer fucking deluge of reactionary trolls and fucking Gamergaters back in 2014 just flooded their inbox and flooded their comment sections and sent them emails? Do you know how many left-leaning people just fucking gave up? It's because it works. Fundamentally, human beings want to have fun. And if you make being a bigot less fun, you will make less bigots. Or at the very least, you will get them to stop acting on their bigotry as frequently. They already do this to us. They already do this to us to the greatest extent of which they are capable. There is nothing unethical about doing it to them. What on earth? Who could possibly make the argument that deplatforming Nazis leads to greater harm for society? They say. But then they could deplatform you. So what? They already fucking do. I already get false fucking reports in my videos, even though I'm a smaller YouTuber. I already get people conspiring to fuck. We had a fucking planned gore raid in our Discord just a couple of days ago. Some fucking alt-right Discord server. We had some leaks, thankfully, but they were all like, haha, we're gonna go into this new LeftTube streamer and we're gonna spam gore all up and fucking down the channels. People dying, probably gross shit like that. Thank you, Rare World. I really appreciate the subscription, my friend. Welcome to the Vosh Pit. Huh?
We've got a centrist. I don't know. They're saying that left is fascism.
Yeah, well, I'm rambling. This is something that right-leaning people already understand and engage in. Okay? There's nothing wrong with doing it back. There's nothing wrong with making reactionaries, with making fascists, with making conservatives feel uncomfortable online. Because goddamn if they haven't been doing that to us for as long as I can remember. So that's that. Anyone who argues left-leaning people shouldn't be doing this is either engaging in respectability politics to an extent that it's almost a parody of itself, or has no idea what efficacious political action looks like in this day and age. And over here, we'll get to this. Physical violence. Antifa. Y'all gonna tell me there ain't value to going to a protest being made by white nationalists, Trump supporters, KKK members? As if there was a difference between the three. Of going to those protests, of counter-protesting, of standing up, physically showing there that we're not there to take their shit. When they get violent, we get violent back. When they hit, we hit back harder. Of us defacing their monuments, of us making them feel intimidated and uncomfortable in public. Because there are research out there which indicates, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that these kinds of actions work. Physical presence, physical bodies work. Most white nationalists are cowards. They are babies. They are little baby boys. And sometimes girls, but from what I've been reading on their forums, mostly boys. And they go on out there, and they want to do their little LARPing. They wear their fucking Kekistan t-shirts, and they have their shield that has, like, the Kek flag painted on it. And they go out there, and they've got, like, their mace and tasers and shit. And you know these buddies are packing a knife, just in case them Antifa boys come up. And they go out there, and they go out there and LARP. And it's all fun and well for them. But these fucking keyboard warriors, it took all the courage they had in their little bones to go up and step outside. You think there ain't value to going out there and staring them in the eye? Because I can't tell you how many times I've read articles, either academic or newsworthy, talking about how right-leaning people just up and pissed off soon as any kind of physical threat came to them. When Antifa goes to a rally, they know what they're getting into. White nationalists are babies and cowards, every last one of them. And by making them feel scared, by making them feel uncomfortable, by smashing a couple faces, we do a lot of work, broadly speaking, to disenfranchise them from the political space, to dispel the notion that they represent the will of the people, to destroy their mythical white idyllic virtue, the idea that they are reclaiming their civilization. Their civilization steps back at them and says, no. You reclaim nothing. You claim the dirt in your mouth as I step on it. How can you argue someone that goes out and protests is a coward? Are you kidding? I'm a coward. I've gone to protests. You fucking kidding me? Removal from society. Now here's a question. To my shit libs in chat. To my little baby boys, to those of you who disagree with me, look at this little skull and crossbones. Didn't I do a great job drawing that with my mouse on MS Paint? At what point do we do this? At what point do we believe it is efficacious for us to do this? Some of you might think, never, of course not. Why would we ever do this? This is fundamentally anti-liberal. This is undemocratic. You're removing people from the democratic process. Okay. What if we had a political party rise to power in this country that set up deportation camps along the border and started ripping children from their mothers and fathers? And when all the political dust gets settled out, we don't even know which kid pairs up with which mother. Just tear apart a couple families, a couple thousand families, no biggie. Are concentration camps not enough? Okay. What if we take it a step farther and we have a political party with a leader, let's say a president for the sake of example, who refuses to denounce white nationalism? When white nationalists, when KKK, when Nazi protests take place in his name, motivated by him, bolstered by him and his followers, staffed exclusively by people who voted for him, he won't say anything. Find people on both sides. Hypothetically. Okay, maybe that's not enough. What about if a political party came to office that tried to deport all Muslim people from the country? Even though it's anti-constitutional, it doesn't really matter in this context. What if they just tried to remove Muslim people? They're doing this removal from society. What if they try and do it to a marginalized community? What if they do this? They're already fucking doing this. Not only are they doing it, they're doing it extra legally. They're doing it unconstitutionally. It would be every bit as illegal for them to do this as it would be for me to go outside with a Mosin and start removing right-leaning people from society. This is the same level of legal. This is the same level of constitutional precedent. Hypothetically, in a video game, in GTA 5 RP. What does it take? I'm serious. What does it take? What does a demographic constituency have to do before you think it's ethical, before you think it's efficacious to say, fuck you, your values are incompatible with mine, I do not want you in my society? Now, as it stands, leftists do not have the ability to enact this. We don't have the institutional power, nor do we have the numbers to deport or otherwise remove any groups of people from society. We can't do it. So when I talk about this, I'm talking more about theory than I am practice. What would they have to do? What would a political party have to do? I'm seriously asking. Because conservatives, unironically, conservatives talk, after every fucking mass shooting, Democrats will be like, hey, maybe we should tighten up gun laws. And every fucking conservative in the country drives out to their local fucking gun shop, stockpiles enough ammo to set them safe for the second coming, stocks up in their fucking armory, waits outside, or waits fucking behind the front door with their fucking LMG pointed at it, waiting for a federal agent to show up and take their guns. Every single fucking time a Democrat twitches their finger, every goddamn conservative in this country waits, just fucking waits for the federal agents to come and show up and take their guns. I can't tell you how many fucking memes I've seen on Facebook saying, the left wants a civil war? Well, we've got all the guns, and we've got big dicks, and you just like your coffee, you fucking gay lord. Like, they fucking LARP about this so hard. Conservatives LARP about doing this all the fucking time. But when we talk about that, we're just like, fucking conservatives. Yeah, they're just kind of paranoid or whatever. But I, the humble leftist, step forward and say, hey, maybe people who are trying to systemically deport and disenfranchise minorities, maybe we should take a serious look at whether or not they should be considered full-fledged members of society. Maybe we should ask ourselves whether we want fucking genocidal maniacs to be part of the democratic process. And I get called the lunatic. They do this, but they do it about good people. I do it about bad people. So to you shitlibs, do you think there's no point at which you can do this? What if a political party came into office and, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, brown shirts start roaming around the fucking streets? You see a trans person, whap, back of the gun to the head. Oh, maybe a couple brown shirts gets arrested. Oh, yeah, sure. But hey, there's a big fucking PAC, an anonymous PAC, that's donating money to their legal defense funds. So the brown shirts get to walk around fucking downtown neighborhoods in major cities with their fucking ARs strapped to their back, and they get to, make eyes at brown folk, make eyes at trans folk, make eyes at boys holding a hand to other boys. You want to punch them? Okay, they'll shoot you, and they'll claim it was self-defense, and they'll get money to their legal fund. They want to shoot you, or beat you up, or call you names, or hold their guns in front of their bodies while calling you shit, and you can do nothing but run because you don't know whether this is going to be the one who's just LARPing or the one who's actually going to go crazy and fucking shoot you. You don't know? Is that the point where we have to talk about political violence? Is brown shirts the fucking line we draw in the sand, at which point we can start discussing political violence? I'm asking you, shitlibs. I am begging you. I am on my hands and knees. I want to know, when can we talk about political violence? Because we're like this close to that. You realize that, right? We already have openly fucking radicalized groups of white nationalists who run around using open carry laws to the fullest possible extent. We already have white nationalists who get their legal fees paid through GoFundMe, which occasionally get suspiciously large donations from anonymous donors. We're right fucking here. When does this become an option? When does this become valid? I'm begging you, I'm trying to meet you halfway here, because I already know the answer in my head, but I'm asking you based on your values. When does it become valid? Because I know, fucking boy, I know for a fact, if that was going the opposite direction, if there were Antifa groups, like super Antifa groups, running around open carrying in fucking urban areas, and they were doing protests where they were chanting, the whites will not replace us, the whites will not replace us, and talking, and like they'll go on fucking radio talk show programs and talk about how they unironically want to create like a trans ethno-state or some shit. If that happened, you shitlibs would be fucking unhinging your jaw. You'd be greasing up your fucking gullet to take that Trump dick, talking about how he's enacting some fucking executive order on prohibiting freedom of speech for these people. I fucking know you would. Cogito, thank you very much for the Twitch Prime subscription, my friend. Oh, wait, it wasn't Twitch Prime. It was just regular Twitch subscription. Thank you, and welcome to the Vosh Pit. I fucking know that you would in the other direction. I know it, because you think, you shitlibs, when you think of like a Nazi or a white ethno-stater or a Trump supporter, again, as if there was any fucking difference, you think like, oh yeah, they've got some bad ideas, but like they should be able to participate in society. Maybe we can change their mind, and even then everyone gets a vote. But if you think of a fucking Antifa super soldier unironically advocating for this to become like a Native American ethno-state and for all the fucking whiteys to get out of here, you'd be like, well, obviously we can't be having that. I hope Daddy Trump enacts some executive legislation soon. I know it. I fucking know it, because this shit happens. Because I see fucking liberal centrists go crazy over college campus free speech issues, and then mysteriously, when actual violations of human rights or actual violations of our First Amendment are being propped up by the government, you just kind of fall a little bit silent on it. You just don't care as much. That's why I say, this is my fucking policy position. Twitch TOS, come at me. Some people do not deserve to be a part of the democratic process. Now, which people? I couldn't tell you. Again, leftists don't have the institutional power to carry out anything like this, okay? Am I talking about genocide? Probably not. No, actually. Would I consider perhaps interim imprisonment during a revolution of people who disagree with us? Maybe. We'd make it legal. It wouldn't be illegal. I'm following the law. I'm following the fucking revolutionary law is what I'm following. Listen. Whether we like it or not, we live in a system suffused with violence, institutional and intrapersonal. Violence is the means by which the world is made darker, and it can be the means by which the world is made brighter. When people talk about political violence, I don't want them to denounce it as a matter of fact. People who denounce political violence broadly as a concept are tiny brain fucking pebble smooth brainlets who have no right discussing the subject. Political violence isn't inherently right or wrong. It's a tool. And tools have to be used the right way. Which brings me to this. Institutional discrimination. Institutional political violence. I'm not a fan. Call me an anarchist, because I am. But I want political violence to be enacted by the people, without the help of the state. The state will always have a greater capacity to inflict violence on any group of people than an individual, and that can be useful at times, but because violence enacted through the state has to be legislated to some extent, either de facto or through the legal channels the system has propped up, that means that it can be very difficult to control the extent to which that persecution is engaged in, and it can become something of a slippery slope. I am not a fan of institutional discrimination of any kind, even institutional discrimination which agrees with me. I want to be very clear about that, because I am not a hypocrite. I do not believe the government should make it in any way illegal for you to be racist online, illegal for you to be sexist online. I don't think the government should have any say in these matters. I'm not a fan of institutional discrimination of any sort.